At Christmas, my niece unwrapped my present and said, "Dad says you always buy cheap junk." Everyone laughed. I smiled like it didn't cut. That night, I froze their shared credit card. At 7:22 a.m., my sister-in-law called screaming from a checkout line. My brother's dining room was lit up like a casino. Dessert was on the table. My niece tore through my gifts with one hand and her phone in the other. A boutique sketch set she'd begged for. A hardcover series she'd mentioned for months. She barely looked at either. Then she said it again, like a punchline. "Dad says you only buy cheap junk anyway." My brother laughed first. His wife smirked. Nobody corrected her. I kept my fingers tight around my wine glass so they wouldn't shake. Looking back, that silence was the tell. I'd paid their rent 3 times that year. I'd covered just this one spill more times than I can count. And I kept doing it because it was easier than watching them spiral. On the drive home, I didn't cry. I felt this sharp, cold clarity. I kept wondering how many emergencies happen before you admit it's not an emergency. It's a system. Years ago, I added my brother to a card because he couldn't get approved a loan. Bad credit, excuses, promises. It was meant for emergencies, but groceries and "we're behind" became normal. At 1:14 a.m., I logged in and hit freeze. No warning, just done. At exactly 7:22 a.m., my phone lit up. The card isn't working. "We're at checkout. Lauren, fix this." I let the calls die out on my screen. By noon, my brother was texting like a lawyer without facts. "You're really doing this over a joke. She's 12. You're loaded anyway." That's when I realized he genuinely thought my money was family property. That night I texted him, "I'm reviewing my finances for the new year." The card stays frozen. 2 hours later, he showed up at my door, exhausted and annoyed, like I'd inconvenienced him. He leaned in. "We thought you were family. Family helps each other." I kept asking myself, was I family or a line of credit? I asked one question. "In the last 5 years, what have you done for me?" He stalled, then offered emotional support. I said, "You're not getting another dime from me, ever." He left angry, slamming my door like he was the victim. My mom called that evening with her careful voice. I told her what my niece said, how everyone laughed, and how long I'd been paying for it. She asked quietly, "How much have you spent on them this year?" I opened my spreadsheet. I'm a lawyer. Patterns matter. $6,820. Not a dollar repaid, not even acknowledged. My dad called next, blunt and furious at my brother. Hearing him say, "This isn't your job," felt like someone cut a weight off my ribs. Then, on a Saturday morning, someone knocked while I was making coffee. First, I opened the door and saw my niece. Then, I saw her rolling suitcase on my porch. Next, she stepped past me like it was planned. After that, she said, "Dad dropped me off." Then she added, "I'm supposed to stay until you apologize." Again, no car waited, no parent called, just her. Finally, the lock clicked behind her like a dare. She scrolled on my couch like nothing was wrong. I couldn't tell if she was embarrassed or just trained. I fed her anyway. She was a kid repeating the house rules. That night, my brother texted, "So she's there. Good. You owe her an apology." "No, is she okay?" "Just leverage." That's when I realized they'd used their own child to move me. The next morning, an email hit my inbox from her school counselor, concern regarding guardian status for Kayla M. Her mom had hinted I might handle pickups and paperwork soon. I replied immediately. No guardianship, no custody changes, no agreement. The counselor called, apologized, and said my sister-in-law had been vague but suggestive. My stomach twisted. They weren't just chasing my card. They were trying to hand me responsibility. When I confronted my brother, he brushed it off. "You're paranoid. Just help a little more." I said, "I'm done. Don't contact me again." I told my niece she could always call me, but her parents were on their own. After that, my phone went quiet. No late night emergencies. No pressure disguised as updates. I replaced my dying washer and dryer. I booked a solo spring trip to Portugal. I started sleeping through weekends without that familiar buzz of obligation. Months later, my niece mailed me a drawing. On the back, in shaky handwriting, she wrote, "I know the sketch kit wasn't cheap. I'm sorry I said that. It didn't fix the adults, but it told me at least one person learned what respect looks like."